So I would like to now welcome my next guest into the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I believe Dennis Tabella with Defenders of Animals is around the corner over here. And I appreciate your coming in today, sir.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks so much. So much going on with Defenders of Animals right now. And I'm just going to take a little break here. It's just a little hot in the studio. But one of the big ones I wanted to talk about and share with viewers as we're talking with them here, protest this weekend for the circus. And one of the things that we were talking about here was we know the circus is actually closing down. This is the Barnum and Bailey Circus here in Rhode Island, which we can just about see over the other building over here to the old Civic Center. But you've got concerns about what happens to the animals, not just the elephants, all of the animals. So why don't you tell folks here, Dennis, what this is all about?
Yeah, Defenders of Animals is very much concerned about where the animals are going to go after Ringling Brothers closes down, because we've had a concern about them making a commitment to turn their animals over to what's called true sanctuaries. They haven't done that yet. That's an issue. The other issue, Kate, is we know that circuses rent out their animals to other circuses, so we don't want that to happen. So we're looking for a commitment from Ringling Brothers not to do that either. So we're protesting the fact that they're coming back to Providence, even though it's their last time. We can't look away. They're still using animals and tigers and lions and what have you. So that's what we're protesting Saturday.
So tell folks the nuts and bolts. If they want to come, if they're concerned about animal welfare, circus animals, and they want to show their support, what time should they arrive and where should they go?
We're going to be there from 10 until 11 right at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, and we have plenty of signs so people don't have to make their own signs, so they can just come down there, and there's usually plenty of parking available in the area.
And you've been active before, especially with the animals in the circus. This, again, the fact that they're closing, what did you think about when you heard that? Again, I'm sure concerned for the current animals, but what was your reaction?
Well, this was a good thing for them to do, but people don't realize what was going on for many, many years. In fact, they paid out a $25,000 fine to the USDA. People don't know about that. They've used sick elephants and other animals that were not up to par to be performing at their circuses. So there were a lot of issues, and one would have to see the film footage of what goes on involving the training of these animals. All you're seeing is the performance. People need to see what happens with the training, because there's some horrible things that take place.
And where's a good, should you just Google it, go to YouTube and see circus animal training?
It's all over the internet, and the different organizations statewide and national organizations have plenty of footage and a lot of documentation on this over the years.
Do you get pushback from folks as you're protesting out there, folks who say, oh, it's just the circus, oh, this or that? What do you say to those folks who say, oh, it's just part of American life?
Well, there have been a lot of things that were part of American life that have been terrible, so it doesn't justify letting this go on any longer. And we're hoping that Providence and the Dunkin' Donuts Center and other places bring in acts that don't involve animals.
Okay, so we're going to keep an eye on that. I know the protest is this weekend, but you're up at the State House a lot, lots of legislation pertaining to animal welfare here, and we talked about, just want to highlight maybe three of the pieces, because if folks want to know the full agenda, they can go to Defenders of Animals on Facebook or the URL and go check it out. But a few of them that have been sort of hot button issues here, and one of them pertains to leaving dogs outside and addressing that issue in inclement weather. And as you mentioned, this isn't blanket across the board. It takes into account the different kinds of breeds.
Yes, and a veterinarian from Tufts out in Massachusetts actually put this together, and it's a bill that was introduced by State Representative Joe Solomon from Warwick, but it would protect dogs that are left outside in bad weather. Now, I should mention to your viewers that Cranston, East Providence, Warwick, Johnston, and Providence already have this in place as ordinances. So we're not coming up with something brand new. This is something already working.
Not reinventing the wheel here.
No, and it's crucial for animal control officers and other law enforcement agents to be able to prove these things in court. And it's done very scientifically. And in other words, there's going to be a difference between a husky dog and a Chihuahua. So it's not across the board. It's going to depend on the situation. Is there adequate shelter? Is there adequate food? Is there adequate water? What's the condition of the animal? So a lot's taken into account.
Yeah. And I would have to imagine that in something of this nature, it comes from people who see this happening, a neighbor driving somewhere and seeing a dog by the side of the road, maybe in a snowstorm. Is that really the impetus? So then what happens? Do animal control officers go and investigate the situation?
Yes, and in a courtroom, obviously you have to be able to prove what was taking place, but that Tufts weatherization scale gives them the tools that they need. So we're hoping this passes. It's already passed in the House committee. It's already passed on the House floor. So the bill needs to go over to the Senate committee and then the Senate floor, and then hopefully the governor will sign this into law.
And do you think that, do some folks maybe even not know about it? So say an animal control officer goes someplace and their dog's outside. Is it supposed to be educational as well to say, hey, you need to just have some place if the dog's outside to be able to have shelter? Does an outdoor shelter suffice in some cases for a husky or some dog that might be more amenable to a cold weather environment?
Well, keep in mind that it's not just the cold weather, it's the hot weather too.
Oh, it's the hot weather too.
So it's
plenty of water for the pets.
Yeah, and people need to remember that when it's freezing out, that water isn't going to do them any good because it's going to be solid ice.
Yes.
So a lot has to be concerned with. And I think people who adopt dogs don't adopt them to put them outside 24/7. They're part of the family. You're part of the pack. So get them indoors. And, we're not trying to stop people from letting their dogs to be outside, but don't leave them out 24/7 without adequate protection.
Well, that's just one of the pieces of legislation that you're focusing on. And it's interesting you talk about being part of the family. You kind of humanize, obviously, what these animals are and part of the family. Second piece of legislation, you have the picture of the hand that says, raise your hand if you're for a declawing, and it's a hand that's missing all of its nails. So this is another piece of legislation. Do other states have bans on declawing pets? I mean, we oftentimes look here just in Rhode Island, but I'm sure you look at the national picture. Mm-hmm. What is the national picture on the issue of declawing?
Well, New York has it, and Governor Cuomo from New York was very much in support of that legislation when it was introduced. So New York has it, and there are some cities and towns that have it, but Rhode Island, over recent years, has been sort of like in the forefront of a lot of legislation. In fact, the Animal Legal Defense Fund out in San Francisco rates all the states on, how much comprehensive animal protection laws they have in place. Rhode Island is now rated number 5.
We're the 5th best.
We're the 5th best.
Oftentimes in rankings, we're towards the bottom of things, and I was going to actually ask you what letter grade you'd give Rhode Island, but one of the national organizations, do you think that's an accurate picture?
It is. Yeah, it's accurate, and I'm hoping that sooner or later Rhode Island becomes first, because Illinois and California and some other states have always been in front of us, including Maine. And I should also mention that Rhode Island, outside of Maine, has the best breeding of all the New England states. So only Maine
Only Maine is better.
Yeah.
And there's one more piece of legislation that I do want to talk about. What happens to a pet in a divorce?
Yeah, we need to consider the fact that if there is a dispute about who's going to get the pet during a divorce, we want a court to look at different factors, including who takes the pet to the vet, who's walking the dog. Maybe one of the spouses brought the pet into the relationship. Everything needs to be considered.
Yes.
So it's not just one thing considered, it's everything.
Do you think this will get passed?
Yeah, I do.
Does it seem like a no-nonsense legislation?
I think it is.
I mean, who would be, have you heard any opposition?
No, no, not really, no. But, we think that we have a good piece of legislation, and Representative Charlene Lima introduced the bill. She's one of the deputy speakers, so we're hoping that we can get this bill passed.
Very interesting. So a third piece of legislation, of course, there's more on defenders of animals. And of course, you're always looking for support from the community. You have a big champagne fundraiser coming up that I wanted you to be able to tell folks about.
Yeah, we have a Champagne May breakfast, which is going to be held this Sunday at 10 a.m. And it's at the Governor Sprague Mansion on Cranston Street in Cranston. And a lot of good food, and it's a champagne breakfast. It's $25 per person, but included in that is free raffle ticket, and we have some really nice raffle items. So people are going to walk away, as they did last year, with some nice raffle items. And we used to hold this event down at Belcourt Castle in Newport.
Before it's going through some changes,
80s.
yeah?
Yeah, before they, when the Tinnies still owned the Belcourt Castle. But the Governor Sprague Mansion people and the Cranston Historical Society have been really good to us. So we're hoping we have a good turnout. So please contact us at Defenders of Animals if you'd like to make a reservation.
Fantastic. And, you know, while we have you here and we talk about things going up at the State House, who would you say are some of the biggest champions for animal rights here? I mean, you work tirelessly on the cause, but at the Assembly or in the community, who are really sort of those unsung heroes or folks who really are advancing the issues?
If we go back just a few years, Senator John Tassoni, certainly. He and Representative Charlene Lima got rid of the gas chamber for us in Rhode Island, which was a bill that we requested. But right now, yes, up at the State House now, Charlene Lima, Representative Patricia Serpa.
And it was Solomon with the bill about the animals.
And Joe Solomon from Warwick, Representative Solomon, Senator Ruggieri in the Senate, and there were a number of people that have supported animal issues for some time now, and we really much appreciate it. And I think that, again, we'd like to be number one, and I think we're headed in that direction.
We're heading towards number one, and Dennis Tabella with Defenders of Animals works tirelessly on the issue, has done so for many years. Glad that I got you in today, because just with everything going on, the circus protest on Saturday, Champagne May breakfast on Monday, and of course all the legislation up at the State House that you can find out about, and you provide, you know, that grassroots for folks to be able to contact their legislator and say that they are supportive of a particular piece of legislation. You've got it all laid out for them, so go check out the Defenders of Animals site. Dennis Tabella, appreciate your coming in today. We will talk soon. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful day out here.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll let you sneak around the corner, and I'm going to welcome my last guests into the studio here. Dennis Tabella with Defenders of Animals here at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Always up at the State House lobbying for legislation in support of animal welfare bills. But events coming up this weekend include a protest, again, for the circus. This is the Ringling Brothers Circus taking place on Saturday. Now, as we know, they are closing down after close to 150 years. I believe last visit here to Providence, but raises concerns about where those animals are going to end up and says that the circus has not been making any assurances to that effect. So that's why he and others are going to protest that on Saturday. And on Sunday, a champagne breakfast for support of Defenders of Animals. Again, check it out, their website. You can find more information about that and the legislation there. Dennis Tabella, it was great to have him in studio here. I'm sure I'll be talking with him soon.